Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
OSRS Rambles and all podcast content is brought to you by our lovely Patreon supporters. Thank you for supporting the show. OSRS Rambles is a series where I sit down and talk with different RuneScape players and hear about their journeys and experiences within the game. You know, many players share a similar feeling when it comes to old school RuneScape, and that feeling is nostalgia. While navigating the world and engaging in the content of the game, it usually brings on many memories. But personally, I feel like the biggest provoker of that nostalgic feeling is the sound of old school RuneScape. I mean, hell, you may have had that feeling kick in as soon as you heard the music from the beginning of this episode. And I guarantee you, most of the sounds and music in this game, when you hear it, it will bring you back to some time when you were younger and navigating the world of Gielinor as some free-to-play noob. So that brings me to our guest today. Crown Legacy is a veteran scaper, longtime player moderator, and professionally he works in video game sound design. And so, let's get into the episode. Crown Legacy, thank you for sitting down and talking to me today.
Absolutely, man.
So the first thing I want to ask you, actually maybe we should give some background, because we first met before the pandemic. Well, right when the pandemic was starting, I would say. I think it was back in March. Is that when we met?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me, man. Yeah.
So we met not even because of RuneScape. RuneScape came later down the line, but we met on Reddit because I was finished with school. So if people don't know, I was in school for radio because I wanted to work in podcasting. Very fitting. And also there's like 6 jobs in podcasting in the world. Not obviously
six individual categories of different podcasting jobs.
No, I have no idea. There's just it's hard to find jobs when you're like, I want a job right now in podcasting. It's usually going to be like, yeah, you're going to have to wait a few weeks till a posting pops up. So then I was like, how could I use my knowledge of audio stuff and find other jobs? And then that's where I was like, oh, video game sound design. You know, video games need sound. I can record sound.
What you're telling me, that specific train of thought, like my skill set that I've acquired, how can I then use that to like generate income and do something that I want to do? That is basically how it went for me in audio engineering school too, because I came out of that wanting to do composition, dude. Like I wanted to make songs, and like I still have a very fond love and interest of that. But like I came out being like, oh, I'm gonna be in a band and make lots of money, and then I realized that's not how the world works. How else can I leverage my skill set into something I want to do? And anyways, you know the rest. That's all.
Yeah, totally. And we're gonna get to that in a second. I'm teasing my way to it. So then that's where I went on to Reddit, and I was like, I want to make. Oh my god, you should have seen when I first wanted to start to get into like audio sound design or video game sound design. I was like writing a script. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make an audio drama, and that's gonna be my demo when I send it to video game companies. I definitely was like far off on how you're supposed to do it. So then I went onto Reddit. There's a subreddit for video game sound, and I made a post about wanting to learn. Then I met you. And we added each other on Discord, and you kind of became my mentor in that category of learning sound design. And you taught me a shit ton of stuff. And at some point, I learned that you play RuneScape from time to time, but also you'd been playing it for a while. And I was like, that is awesome. This is fit. Let's record a podcast. Here we are today. So, there's a bit of a background, but before we get into like your RuneScape background, yeah, you mentioned you went to school for sound design. You wanted to make music. Did you want to make Like, did you want to become an artist and make like your own music and then do concerts and live shows, or did you want to make like scores for video games?
I kind of, dude, I really appreciate you asking that question. I think what happened was I was somewhere in between, and the reality is that I had a huge, like, massive fond love for like score and stuff like that. Like, I love anything classic, like for film or even games, of course, right? But like, I really was interested in score. But at the same time, if you're asking me like what I felt like my true passion and calling was, like what I set out to pick up in school, learn, and then go forward with, it was definitely the other option. It was like I wanted to produce my own music and then play my music and do it live. And that's something that's still in the back of my mind, like all these years later, right? But yeah.
That's cool. Do you make music right now?
I haven't tinkered with composition in a long time, and I actually tried to get it going, like, somewhat recently. But here's I am in this really weird technical dilemma right now. So Propellerhead Reason, if anybody out there knows it, was like the DAW that I find the most intuitive to music composition. I just really love that program. Like,
what program? So yeah, DAW is a digital audio workspace, right?
Digital audio workstation, yeah.
Workstation,
but,
okay.
But more or less the same idea, right? And it's called Propellerhead Reason, or Reason is the program, but the developer is Propellerhead. It's like a Swedish company or so. I think I don't quote me on that. It's some kind of Scandinavian. I forget the background. That's my bad.
No worries.
But yeah, no, I find that it's the most, at least for myself, it was the most conducive to writing music. And dude, I tried all of them. I would say that I'm actually someone who's like a little bit versed in every single DAW, rather than just like an absolute wicked pro at one. Even though I think my Reaper chops are starting to get up there. But yeah, I kind of played around with all of them, man. So when it came to music composition, Reason and Logic, when I was a Mac user, were like my go-tos. Like those are the ones that I would use just because they were the most conducive. But that's why I say it's super important, because when I started music, dabbling in any sort of music, the first one that I landed on, man, was Ableton Live. And Ableton is like a live playback production. Like, people absolutely compose music with Ableton, but Ableton, in my opinion, was much better as like a live tool, or like for auditioning clips and stuff like that.
You're bringing us down the rabbit hole of audio stuff. Just audio stuff in general. So at some point, you moved from music. You've moved from the path of video game music design. Is it whatever music design? You know what I mean. And you moved that towards sound design.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think, dude, I was just like sticking a hand in the pool of like everything as far as like music production and composition goes. Like, that was like kind of my main gig way back then. This is like probably around the time I was like 20, when I was a youngin'. Right?
Yeah. But then it was you got the nibble from video game sound design, not music. Right?
Yeah, so what happened, the way that path kind of went, and I think we covered this before, but like, yeah, we'll go over this again, just the, like, I guess, comprehensiveness there for you. But like we so basically what I did was I guess at the time I was thinking about how different ways I could have leveraged that skill set and knowledge. And let me be fair about this. I learned audio engineering in school. I learned a bit of music production and composition, all those things that I touched on a little bit. Like, we touched on, there was like a course related to post-production. So like we touched on it, even things like live sound. But I did not have actually any experience doing sound design as its art form itself in any respect whatsoever, until I basically just took the plunge, until I just like jumped in the pool, right? Like, jumped in with both feet, as you could say, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what happened, like, what actually made me consider the transition, and I guess around the time I was thinking I would make the transition into both game sound and game music, was, I think I explained this before. So I was like the franchise that I became a big fan of was, I loved Mass Effect. Like, that was like a favorite game series of mine when they first came out, right?
I've never played Mass Effect.
Oh my god, so good, man.
I played the first one for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was actually my first time experience with Mass Effect 2. I had to play the first one for a few minutes, and I was like, yeah, no. But then I came back to it, and I was like, oh, I guess I was wrong, and this is the best franchise I've ever played. At least that was my experience of it. So anyways, with Mass Effect, so Mass Effect 2 was the one that I played where by that point, like, when I completed that game, and that's just a fantastic game as a whole, but like by the end of it, I remember feeling thoroughly like entranced and like actually in love with like all the voice acting, like all the voice work done for that project, all the music and all the sound effects too. Like it like just as the whole package, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is like art. Like who did this? Like I need to learn more. And so I looked into it, and I'd read I guess the Mass Effect 2 sound team put out an article on like how they actually did their whole entire process. And when I remember reading that and thinking to myself, okay, I don't know how it's going to happen, what I'm going to do, but this is my calling. This is my career, man. This is what I'm doing.
That's pretty cool. And we're going to talk about RuneScape fairly shortly, but can you talk about sort of your portfolio? Like, what kind of games have you worked on that people might be aware of?
Yeah, so I guess the one that would be relatable, especially for anyone who's I guess like interested in like RuneScape related, well, I would say like games that are on that track is like. So the one that I worked on was a project that's called Orbis VR, which was like the online MMO VR game. And so if you want me to be honest, man, I think that's probably the only one that like just because I've only worked on like indie games as of yet and like contract work, I haven't like necessarily been employed at an AAA studio yet. I mean, actually, I haven't at all. I think that would be the only one that I imagine people might be already familiar with.
For sure,
yeah,
it's
so
like the MMO. If you want to play an MMO game on VR, that's like the game to play, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, as far as like anyone has ever tackled for an MMO VR, like a VR MMO RPG, I would say like that is the one to go to, and like I think it is the one, man, because I don't really know many other developers who've tried to tackle that. You know what I mean?
It's
so
tough.
ambitious.
I play games on the VR, and I'm not going to open up the can of worms, maybe just a little bit, but multiplayer games on VR are like almost always doomed to fail because the user base already is so small, and if you're not getting enough people playing your multiplayer game that you can like easily find lobbies, then like I'm not going to play it if I have to wait 5 minutes to find a match.
Yeah, of course.
Even if and there's so many games that are actually really well done, but because nobody's playing it because nobody's playing it. And it's like doomed to fail. So it sucks.
Yeah,
so.
nobody. It's almost like that issue of like there's just not enough visibility to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you said, the sample pool is just too small. There's just not enough people. But yeah, no, I won't necessarily go down the rabbit hole with Orbis, because like if anyone wants to know or if you'd like to know more, you can ask me like a specific question. But it's just that like I definitely have like very specific feelings on it, and like I know that that could easily go off on like a tangent. So we'll cut that one.
We'll save it for episode 2. All right, so let's loop this around to RuneScape. Talk about how you first got into RuneScape. Like around what age were you, and like what era of RuneScape did you start kind of dabbling into the game? And how did you get into it? How did you even hear about it?
Yeah, this is definitely a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and like, yeah, we're gonna definitely contrast and compare experiences here, man. But I definitely wanted to talk about like nostalgic RuneScape, so that's awesome. But I would say that so my earliest memory for me personally is that someone that I was like somewhat friends with, like kind of knew, was also playing it at the time, and this would have probably been, dude, like maybe all the way back to fucking like 7th grade or some shit like that. So we're talking like 12-year-old Jesse or something, you know what I mean? And so I remember I played it for the first time it was 2006, and I remember the year because I remember the year associated with it was the one where you'd gotten the like I'd always like kept like what was always special for me back then when I first started playing was like all the special holiday event items that would only be like released every year, like on certain years. And so I remember 2006 was the year of I think it was the year of the jack-o'-lantern helmet that you could acquire, right?
Okay.
So that was the first year I played. I remember playing it only for a few months and definitely being into it, but then I specifically recall dropping off because I played the free version of the game for a few months. That then came the like, let's bug mom and dad about using their credit card to get on membership, and that happened in 2007. And I definitely remember I took a few months off, then joined it again because at that point it's like more people were playing, and it was a matter of like, okay, now you're really gonna like get dive into this like properly with your friends and stuff like that, so that was sort of like how I discovered it. And like I'm pretty sure, it was just a buddy at school had mentioned it casually one day, and I was like, what's that all about? And then quickly And you know what? It's funny to even dive into this a little bit. I won't go like really deep with this, but I'll just say like it's funny how you felt like there was even a little bit of this stigmatization around like what it was like to play RuneScape, or at least like tell people your age that you were playing RuneScape. And the weird part about it to me as well, man, is like I maybe there is a specific memory, but I can't like I literally can't pinpoint a very particular like thing that happened that was like, oh no, you do not ever mention that. Maybe someone casually tossed out one day in school something like, oh, don't let any girls know that you play RuneScape or something like that, you know. But like I think what it was really was like a greater feeling of like oppression to like nerds, like, oh, like just don't like let people know that you're in a nerd culture, that you're like a big loser who only plays video games or something like that. Anyways, that's a whole other can of worms, but I mean that is my sort of like starting point for RuneScape, and I'd like to hear yours too, man. Like let's hear about your experience with it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you mentioned that there was a stigma to it, because I remember like I would meet someone in class who played RuneScape, and then he'd like start talking about it. And the guy, this one dude was like a really normal guy, and he was like really normal, and he was like, I just remember him being like super confident, and he was like talking about RuneScape and all this stuff. And then we were in class, and he was like talking about it normally, and I was like, dude, let's. I remember in my head being like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. Like, dude, let's just like I do want to talk about this, but fuck, I don't want to do it in class where other people can hear us, and I'd rather just wait till later. And like, it's funny, you look back, did anyone care? I don't fucking know, but I do remember one time, my group of friends who were playing RuneScape, half of them started veering towards World of Warcraft, and
sure, okay.
It must have been in grade 10.
Understandably.
Yeah, so they started playing World of Warcraft, and of course, then there becomes a feud where they're shitting on you for playing RuneScape, you know, the graphics, and just World of Warcraft looks much more polished than, well, it is much more polished than RuneScape is. And so then they'd start teasing you a bit about it, but you're just like, whatever. But I remember once in class, they were talking about World of Warcraft, and then I made the mistake of like making fun of them for talking about World of Warcraft. I made fun of them, and then he's like, and then one of them would turn around and be like, oh, shut up, you play RuneScape, you can't say shit, you still play RuneScape. And I remember this one girl I was friends with, she looked at me and she was like, oh, you play RuneScape? My little brother plays that game. And I was like, oh, for fuck's god damn it. And I was like so embarrassed.
Wow.
And you're just like, oh boy.
And it's so funny how you put everything in you put everything like in, you know, pure perspective now looking back, and you realize like none of that fucking shit mattered. None of that. Like not even that part, but like of course your younger self was like, oh god, no, my reputation is ruined.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like nobody cares. And the only reason people make fun of you for playing RuneScape is because people make fun of everyone for everything in high school. No matter what it is, like you'll get like picked on for it for the most part. And it's like, let me show you something hilarious now that we're having this conversation about this. I actually have a story attached to this too, but go on. Sorry, this is just like a side tangent. I'll tell you this like after. It's related to what we're talking about though. Oh, yeah, no problem. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same with like maybe kids today who play Fortnite. I don't know at what age Fortnite becomes uncool. Or maybe Minecraft becomes uncool. I have no idea. You know, we're old enough to know that no one really gives a shit what we're doing. If we enjoy it, nobody really cares what we enjoy. But I was working at this children's play place when I was in college. I was working part-time there. My buddy owned it and hired me on, and it was a really chill job for the most part, except for, like, either it's super quiet, you can sit back and play video games and read, or there's a kid throwing up somewhere and you have to go clean it up. So it's very polarizing on
yeah,
the pros
wow,
and cons.
what the heck?
But I was reading, so RuneScape has 3 novels, and I was reading one of the novels.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of people don't know that, and they're not terrible. They're not like they're basically just fantasy novels set in the RuneScape world. So they're not like
Sure. You know what? I remember reading they had like postcards or something like that from way back in the day they would put out that was like related to the lore. It was definitely like lore building for RS, even though I think it was like specific like side stories and ideas that weren't like they would have definitely been like hinted at or mentioned in the game, but it was like its own like now like little side story thing. I remember that used to be a thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It was all about building up like RuneScape's deities and stuff, right? Like there were a lot of stories about like Sarah Doman and all that.
The RuneScape world, like the lore is pretty badass. Like when I started learning about it, I was like, yo, this stuff is actually really cool. It's a shame that nobody reads any of the quest text, but so I was reading a book when I was working one day, and someone came in with their kids and they saw me with the book there, and they're just like, dude, sick book. And I was like, oh yeah, like it's pretty good. And he's like, I didn't even realize there was a book. And this is right when RuneScape came out on mobile, and he was like, man, I hadn't played the game in so long, and when RuneScape came out on mobile, I started playing again. I'm like huge junkie now. And I I was like, yeah, no shit, eh? And
wait, this was like not even that long ago?
No, like, this would have been like 2 years ago, maybe.
Okay. I
was just saying it's funny how like you look back on high school if you wanted nobody to know, but nowadays RuneScape was so popular when we were kids that like if you have a book with you, like someone might see it and they're going to be like, I know that book, sick book. I play RuneScape. I don't know. It's just like it's a way to connect with people now that know of the game.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, man. That's that's a cool experience. So you said there's 3 books. What's that book called?
Oh, I would have to find it. It's a trilogy.
Is it part of a trilogy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
T.S. Church is the author.
What's his name?
T.S. Church. Okay, so the books are Betrayal at Falador, Return to Canifis, and Legacy of Blood.
Interesting. Okay. I seem to recall now. Yeah, it's been a little while. But dude, here, I want to actually show you this real quick since we're on this topic. I guess it definitely relates to like our life experiences to do with RuneScape, because we haven't like, as of yet dived too much into our like actual I guess game play experience so much as like just like the feelings, thoughts, I guess the time
cultural impact RuneScape had on our lives.
Yeah, exactly. So this one here, I'll just show you this. So this is a picture. Okay, excuse my like younger emo weird self or whatever it is. But I just sent you that photo. Did you see that there in the DM?
Oh, let me check. Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, dude. So I had the classic shirt, and you know what's? This is a very interesting picture. Let me paint a picture here for a second with this. But like the best part about this is the fact that I bought that shirt at some point because I've always been a huge fan of like obviously the startup music and the startup sequence of the game, and also the logo design and all that sort of stuff. And so I purchased it as a way of being like, you know what? Fuck, I guess like for lack of a better term, fuck the police in a sense, right? Like when I was younger, when I was like, oh, you'd never expose yourself as an RS player out there. I was like, no, I'm gonna wear it proudly across my chest, right?
Hell yeah.
And so, dude, hilariously enough, like my younger self would have been like terrified, thinking like the moment I walked out of my house with this, somebody would like tear into me or some shit like that. But what happened instead was I wore this. Maybe one of my first public outings with this was like I was at fucking Anime North, right? And I crossed by a group of girls, and one of them like fully like had to like throw a comment in as we were passing by. She's like, "Oh, I love your shirt." You know what I mean? So it just goes to show it's like it's like totally the opposite experience of like what I guess what younger me was thinking was going to happen. There was. I really don't even know that there was a stigma. You know what? It's because there was some kind of stigma around RuneScape based on this type of stuff you were talking about, right? Like there was always like that asshole kid who's like, "What the fuck? You play RuneScape? What a loser!" Right?
But it's more because they're insecure and they're playing World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? Like in the end, it's not much different. But it's like it's high school. Kids suck. Kids are shitty people, right?
That's all you can say, yeah.
So sorry, let me back up. Let me break down this picture for people who are listening. It's Mr. Crown Legacy here. It looks like the picture was taken on a very old webcam. Like I'm talking like 2005 era. It was very pixely. You're wearing the RuneScape shirt that has the RuneScape, the login screen basically with RuneScape on the runestones. And yeah, I see some Zelda.
It's like
a picture of Zelda in the background.
Oh yeah, the poster. Yeah, I think I've still got that somewhere. But But yeah, no, that was definitely like the '07 Scape logo that you got on there.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's dope. Yeah, very cool
actually,
stuff.
I don't know where that is. I need to buy a new one because I love that fucking shirt, dude.
Man, RuneScape's got some cool stuff. My brother, he bought me Mr. Deegan. Shout out to Deegan, he's sitting right behind me. He got me a mouse pad. Okay, you probably haven't seen it, but on the Jagex store now, you can get the RuneScape map, the old school RuneScape map, and it's like it's created in the way like you would picture a Lord of the Rings map.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
It looks
I love
awesome.
that.
Anyways, my brother got me for my birthday a mouse pad with it on there, so it's yeah, very cool.
That's fantastic, dude. That's fucking awesome. Holy shit.
Anyways,
Yeah.
enough, I guess, selling out for Jagex to make enough money off of us. Yes, okay, so you started playing RuneScape, and
Sure.
what was your experience with it when you were playing it? Like, did you find you gravitated towards like PvP, or were you like really focused on maxing your count? Like, how far did you even make it? And I know at some point you became a mod, so walk us through that as well.
Oh yeah, awesome, dude. Okay, so for for that whole experience, I suppose, yeah, man, as much flack as RuneScape gets for different things, like different things across the board, like different departments, it's like, yeah, sure, people will knock the fact that its graphics weren't like always up to par, or the fact that it had like loading in different portions of the game. Whoa, a game has loading, holy. On top of that, like they would there'd be like parts about how like, yeah, people would say it's boring, right? And they don't, these are all like valid criticisms, because at the end of the day, it's all subjective and it's people's opinions, right? But for me personally, I found that, like, yeah, RuneScape, like, I'll just go out on the limb and say it. It's like RuneScape, as far as balancing wise is concerned, could be like the most grindy game that there is out there. Like, it was the
100%.
game built on grind. But that said, at least my own personal opinion is that it was always well like, I guess well balanced is the word I want to look for here. Like, it always felt like polished in that sense. Like, it felt like me gaining stats in one department really had like multiple ramifications on other parts of the game. Like, it felt like tight. It felt well designed, even though it is grindy. Yeah.
I've mentioned this before, but the game is definitely about the journey and not the destination, because the destination takes forever to get to, and the whole point of the game is that, like, you always have these goals that you achieve, you set the next goal, achieve it, you set the next goal, achieve it.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. And you know what, that's in a lot of ways, that's still a lot more than you can say for some other games, right? So that's the good thing. But yeah, man, so I guess that was more speaking to maybe even almost more like my personal preference. So I guess my critique on like how I think the game measures up. But like, yeah, back to more, I guess, my experience of it. It's like, yeah, man, I was one who wasn't, I guess, all that like preface to say, like, none of that stuff like threw my interest of the game away. Like, and if anything, I thought it was well done, and it, like, those goals were like actually like meaningful to work towards. Like, especially when you're that age, right, man? Like, when you have like you got schoolwork, you got homework and stuff like that, but also in the back of your brain, you're like, oh god, like, I'm 97 fire making, got to go home and like bang it out. You know what I mean? Like it was a big deal, right? It was like it literally, the first 99 would feel like a life achievement. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it felt, right?
So back in when you first got into the game, like that big, before you ever quit the game, because most of us quit the game at some point. Boom, we started back in OSRS. So your first journey with the game, did you actually start banging out 99s?
I did. Yeah. So the way I played the game was I was all about the questing and the skilling. And to be honest, I feel like that's still majorly how I play the game. I've always other people play RuneScape purely for the enjoyment sometimes of PvP. Like, some people will play it strictly for that. I always, like, the way that I play games, and I guess the chill manner, the pace at which I approach it, it always felt like that, like, I always was interested in that, and like, I thought it was cool, but I also felt like, A, I'll be honest, I felt I wasn't skilled enough for it, and B, this one I still stick more to. But I think that I really feel like the quality PvP of the game is like pretty, like, I would say it's fairly end game content. Like, I don't know, I don't really play the game to pure PK or something, but some people live for that. So So, but anyways, yeah. So for me, it was mostly questing and skilling. I would say for sure, man. Yeah, I definitely built my RS career on that.
Okay, that's.
But
At what point did you? I guess did you ever start slowing down? Like, did you ever quit the game? Like, I'll tell you about me. For myself, I played the game hardcore. I wanted to be a PvPer so bad, so I spent so long building my account, and I was always in clans. I lived for the clanning in the game. And then they removed in 2007, they removed the wilderness and they removed free trade. And
I remember, yep.
So
it was a big deal.
That happened, and it didn't take long, but I eventually quit. I gave away all my items on my main account. I eventually gave away my main account because I was like, you know what? I'm done with this game. I don't want to play it, and I don't want the urge to play it anymore. Probably smart choice back then. So I gave away all my shit, even my accounts. And then it wasn't until old school RuneScape came back again in 2013 that I decided to turn my pure account into my main account and start the game over. So most people had a similar journey. Did you have that same journey too? And if you did, where did you start fizzling out with the game?
Yeah, man. I there's quite a few things here to address still, but I'm going to definitely get to your question. So what I would say is that, I feel that I played the game actually post that update, although I definitely like there were people who outright quit. I remember I was definitely a player who felt very soured by all of it. Like I remember not being like totally fine with that, but also just like accepting the reality of it and like just realizing, well, I still like it's still a game that I put a lot of time into, right? And I was going to continue to play. But yeah, at some point it fizzled for me. But then I got back on the wave again. Like I remember like that was the period where I dropped off, and then it was sort of like touch and go, like here and there, and like seeing RuneScape as it evolved over the years. Because there was a period, I think this was like right in maybe like 2008, 2009, where like the game really kind of like, I consider that like the middle era of RuneScape, where it like really like took on some interesting changes that kind of like went away as like you move into like the RS3 and the evolution of combat. Like I'm pretty sure like 2008, 2009 is like where they got like a full-on fresh new starting page, and then I think summoning was introduced, and there were a couple different things, right?
So maybe to retract or rephrase my answer a bit, because I remember I did come back a few times, because I remember playing a little bit with OSHD, and
that's what it was.
Not OSHD,
yeah,
just RuneScape.
RS.
RSHD. Man, that was fucking. I loved that, and that login screen was amazing, but.
It was dope. I think it definitely felt like it moved away. It felt like the next iteration, because you know how RuneScape has certainly gone through iterations, right? Like there was like RS Classic, and then you had RS2, right?
Yeah.
So to me, RS HD was kind of like the true RS3, like the first time, it felt that way, at least. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, at least for myself,
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, not to knock, because I know a lot of people continued playing it. For me, I was soured out because the PvP is what I was playing for. That being said, there was a lot of great updates that happened in between PvP being removed and, I don't know, whatever, in between then and RuneScape 3. And
I think Bounty Hunter, right?
Bounty Hunter
around that time.
they came out to replace it.
Fists of Guthics, I think, too.
So yeah, I didn't play that much, but I know some people loved it. But like God Wars came out, which was a huge.
Sure. That was massive.
Yeah, that was massive.
The game changer. And to be honest, to this day, it's still fairly end game content.
Oh, yeah.
Where I still really haven't delved into God Wars much yet myself yet, and all these years later, it's funny how like it almost happened in like a cycle, because like as crazy as it is to me to think when RS like 07 launched, and the fact that you had to restart everything again from scratch, that felt like detrimental in a way, because like some people, maybe it depends on your viewpoint, right? Because some people would come into it thinking, oh, it's a fresh slate, but to me, I was thinking that was so much grind that I literally have to do from the start again. And so building yourself back up to a place where you can do stuff like that, it takes a long time. Like I've certainly put hours and hours and hours of my life already back into OS 07, and it's just like I'm still just not there yet. And it gets harder when you get older, right? Because you got life and other responsibilities to shoulder. Right?
It's funny. It's like easier and harder, because you don't have as much time as you did back then, but also like you're so much more efficient. You know what to do to level your account as fast as possible. Whereas when you're younger, I'd spend hours every day wood cutting magic trees because I wanted the money from it. And now I look at it, that's terrible money.
Yeah,
but yeah. Okay, so you started fizzling out from the game probably around 2007 when the PvP got removed as well, just because of the game direction.
I think there was definitely like months, periods. That's where the first time it felt like there were periods in between of like not playing for a little bit. But I would say I didn't drop off properly until like maybe like because I definitely played a fair amount of the RSHD and stuff like that. So I would say around 2010 is where I kind of took a good hiatus from the game. Like 2000, I would say 2010, 2011, something like that. And then even then it was still coming back in between like every now and then to check it out, you know.
So you never did like a big quit. You more so just like took really long breaks from the game.
Yeah, I would say and I to be honest, man, I don't even know that I would say really long, but I would just say that for me, I've always taken multiple hiatuses from RuneScape, and a couple of them were long. Like I remember that I specifically recall. It's actually crazy to me to like think about this now. Since I started playing RuneScape, I have not stopped playing it. I took a long hiatus from it. 1 year when I was in college. That's what happened. There was like a year-long thing when I was doing my first round of this was actually even before RIC. This was like when I was doing general arts. This is like 2012, I think. I took like a year off of RuneScape. That was the longest I've ever been away from it.
Okay. Yeah. And it was just something you just weren't interested in playing.
I just the interest dropped, and maybe even more so than the interest was just time, man. But actually going back for a sec, I definitely feel like more slowly over the years, the interest level declined with the free trade changes for sure. Like that, like whether I wanted to admit it then or not, for sure it had an impact. I know that subconsciously in the back of my mind, it was like I was enjoying the game less because of those implementations, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. At some point, you became a player mod. Whenabouts did that happen? And do you remember how did that affect like your play style? Like, do you have stories of how maybe people were different around you?
Okay, so that's I'm so glad that you asked that. That's like an entire like can of worms to get into, and I love talking about this. I'm so passionate about this. So
it's funny because many people like myself, when I was like younger, being a PMod was like the dream. I would report people. I was always like, oh, I'm making sure I'm all squeaky clean because I don't want to get reported and I want to be a player mod. I'm always active on the forums. It just never happened. So yeah, tell us about how that happened with you.
Man, I followed exactly the same stuff that you're talking about. Including at times, I think I even befriended a couple player mods that I had met in the game and stuff like that. And no doubt, now thinking back, I'm sure maybe they pulled a string for me. But let me just, I want to go into this. So the part that you asked me about like how people's behavior changed around you isn't as dramatic as you would think. Like it's definitely not as like interesting or cracked out as it could be. I do have some fun stories for sure, but it's not really that terribly interesting. But the sheer, let me say this, the sheer feeling around actually that whole process of becoming a player mod and then being handed the offer and the invite by JagX was literally, I know that like hopefully like I still consider myself like, let me just put this in perspective here. I consider myself relatively young. I still think I have a lot of big life experiences to go through still. But let me say that in my relatively young life so far, becoming a player mod on RuneScape was maybe one of the top 3 moments I've ever had in my life. That's how big that was to me.
Nice.
That's how much that mattered. When I'd gotten the inbox message from JagX that they were officially extending an offer to me, an invite, I practically leaped out of my fucking chair and like screamed. Like it was literally like I couldn't even like, I lost my mind, dude. I don't even know how I could like rationally describe it to you. I just know that I like lost my shit. Like it was just like this eureka, maybe like one time weird moment, man. But like it was just like. It was like one of those. It was there, and then it was maybe gone in a flash. You know what I mean? But like, it was just like such a huge deal. And then I was like flipping my shit. I of course said yes immediately because like that was like something like I definitely was like building up towards it, and it was something I was interested in what I wanted. But I also kind of like put it on the back burner as like this idea of like, oh, it could happen, but like if it doesn't, it's fine. Like I definitely was like realistic about my opportunity with that.
Yeah,
right? Like, I was
you
like,
can't set it as a goal because that grind, it's not a grind. You can't like, well, if I just report enough people, it'll come to me. Like it might not ever come to you. It's not like a drop from a boss where like if you just stick to it, eventually you'll get it.
But at the same time, I will go as far as to say, yeah, sometimes I actively like, frequented areas where I knew there were people to report, and like maybe in a run while I was skilling, I made the habit of doing that, and like I'll just go out, I'll just fucking say it,
Yeah.
I did do that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but at the same time, I definitely had other people. I had other interests in mind too. I remember thinking like, there are like young kids who play this game and stuff, and they don't need to deal with all that and that. But I mean, people are gonna learn about that stuff on their own either way. So,
sure.
But anyways, yeah, you know what it was like in Lumbridge, right? Yeah, so let me just circle back real quick on a couple of past things I wanted to mention. So, there are other like incredibly nostalgic feelings associated with RuneScape and like things that like will stand the test of time. I remember just the fact that Lumbridge was like the poppin' area of the game for a really long period of time. I remember that like Varrock, I think World 2 was it? Maybe it was like one of the really popular ones. Like the trading spot was like the West End Bank and stuff like that.
Or Falador
like, there's
Park. Yeah, both of them work.
Yeah, there's quite a few like sort of really nostalgic memories like that.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was definitely the gatherings at like those like seasonal events. Like I said, the seasonal events was a big deal to me. I loved that stuff, like the Grim Reaper's house and all that kind of stuff. But then another one of those lifelong memories were a couple of the friends I had met through online. You know what I mean? Like that for a lot of us, that was our first experience of like meeting other players and like regularly having like I guess like a posse, for lack of a better term, online. Your group that you like chum around with, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is even prior to clans, I think, prior to like clan chats and such. But yeah, dude. So those were some experiences I went through. Yeah, the player mod thing was phenomenal. It was fantastic. It was like huge. It was like that was my life achievement. And like I said, I'd still put it in maybe one of four top 3 fucking moments, man.
Yeah,
maybe. So there's that.
What around what era did this happen?
You know what? I don't quite remember. Like I remembered for a really long time, but like I think it was October. 2009. I'm gonna say like around that timeline. However, the physical mail they sent you out with that was like a prized possession of mine, so I have it somewhere. I still have the actual.
They sent you a physical letter.
They sent you a physical letter with a pin that you had to enter, and that was Jagex's way of being like, this is like official. You got an official Jagex letter with like the logo and the seal on it and everything. Shit. It was a big deal, man. It was a big deal. I've got it somewhere.
Now, if let's say hypothetically, let's say you got that letter, you never put the pin in, could you sell it to someone else? Or is it linked to your account?
You probably could. Actually, you know what? I don't remember. You know what? I feel like because it was addressed to a specific person, my guess is that they would have foreseen that, and I feel like it probably was. It probably was specific to your account. It was like you had to log in somewhere and go put in a code somewhere, right?
I bet you if you could have sold that and it wasn't something that Jagex would instantly remove it from another account, you could probably sell it for like thousands of dollars.
Oh, I'm sure. I wonder if what. Yeah, I don't know. The letter itself probably wouldn't be worth anything, but
yeah, fair.
I do have that still.
It's cool memorabilia. I get that framed. Why not,
dude? It is. It's amazing. It's something that I'm gonna dig up one day, and it's gonna put immense joy in my soul. It's probably one of those things that if I just like serendipitously happened upon it on a day like today, it would have made my life for the next like 2 weeks.
Dope.
Like so but yeah, no, that's a big deal to me. And then so the one thing I want to throw in there about the player moderator experience a little bit too is like I'll just drop two parts of what that was like. So one, in that period of time where I dropped off from the game for about a year, like I was telling you, I think that year I was actually removed as a moderator. I was actually removed for in a regular inactivity sweep they used to do every couple of months. They actually had removed my mod chip. And when I found out about it, getting back into the game, maybe I'd say 2-3 years later, like around the time that EOC was a thing and something like that, I was very like sad that I had lost it, and I remember at this period of feeling like not knowing what to do. Like I was like just really bummed out over it, but at the same time I had this fire in my spirit, this determination to reclaim it, and I actually got it back.
Oh,
I got
wow.
it back.
Just how? Just by trying to contact them?
No, so they well, basically what happened was they reoffered it to me, but how it happened was crazy. Now that I think back to it, it was crazy, man. I was at some kind of an in-game event, a player event, and I remember meeting it was like another group of player mods, and I remember clicking with one of them and sharing my story, and that player mod, I believe, was actually the player mod account of an actual J mod. Like I believe they worked at the company too.
Oh,
and
convenient.
I put in a word with them saying like, hey, is there any way that you could like help me out with this? Or like, it's really unfortunate. I just had to step away from the game, but it's like, I'm still passionate about that community and it's still something I want to be a part of. And she was like, yeah, I'll definitely pull some strings for you. And she put in her word. And I remember it was like this whole thing of like, I didn't hear from her for a bit and I thought maybe it was gone. And then the next thing I knew, they reinstated me on it, you know?
Wow. Nice.
So that was an experience too. And thanks, man. And you know, the last thing I'll say is that, as for the experience itself actually goes, yeah, man, you would show up and honestly, my goal wasn't to be imposing with the moderator status. Of course, when you're a mod, you know it and stuff like that too. But like, it wasn't my goal. That was never necessarily to be like imposing with that or like police anybody. But when I was chilling and just chumming around with people and making friends, yeah, of course, people would then, feel the need to like poke jabs at you. There's a lot of misconceptions. Most people would like think that like somehow you were like inextricably tied to the company and that you could get them some kind of favor or advantage. Like, oh man, can you just generate me like $2 million? Like, can you do that for me? And it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't even ban you. Like stuff like that. But
I can
like,
mute you. Mute.
I can definitely mute, and you don't necessarily wave that around in people's faces or anything like that. But like, I will say, even though I never intended it, it comes with the territory, and there's a certain level or authority of respect that it does command from players, and that was not my doing. Like I would just simply be there to chat or hang out, but people would be like, "Oh no," and you know what I mean? Because it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because sometimes you don't want it to be like a big deal, and you want people to just like chill and game with you, and then other times like I guess you're thinking like, well, like hopefully my presence here will deter people from doing shifty behavior, right?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that's what it was like. But the one other aspect to that too is that some other player mods would advocate for this because we had our group online, right, our forum and stuff. I remember it was pretty private, like you weren't really supposed to share any of that information. But one thing I remember people advocating for is they said, I would like if you choose to play the game this way, you can play the game in an incognito fashion. So that like if you find it's bothersome that players specify you just because you're a mod, like you can play it incognito, and that way if there's ever anything going on that shouldn't, you're there to handle it, but you're also not drawing attention to yourself. And I remember kind of taking on the vigilante role a little bit at points in time, for sure.
Oh, so you could hide it at some point.
Well, it's just a matter of like, if I was there skilling, like people will know as soon as you type and they see the crown pop up, right? So it's just a matter of like, just kind of minding your own business in a sense, right? Like, or maybe keeping to your clique, maybe chatting with your friends in a clan chat or something,
Yeah, no,
stuff like that, right? So yeah, you definitely had incognito mods at times, and I definitely played that role, but yeah,
cool.
So that was the experience, man.
That's pretty wild. And it's a very unique one because, like I said, you can't just get it. No matter how hard you work, you might not ever get it. Like some people might not. So
some people, I think, didn't ever get it. I will share this. Some players were able to actually become dual mods, which was then my next goal.
What?
That was the thing that happened. Some players were dual mods. They were player moderators and forum moderators.
Right. Okay. I know the forum moderators. That's funny.
But the way that tended to work is that experience was a little bit independent of each other. I actually posting on the RS forums was something I was aware of, like that visibility was good for getting your name in for a player moderatorship. But I also remember just actually enjoying and being involved in the forums, and so I really liked the RS forums, so I took to them quite often. But I I remember it was kind of a known delineation at a point for the mods that like like typically if you're more that shining exemplar of a player, like an ambassador of a player in the game, you'll be recognized for player moderatorship versus like if you were like the like go to like friendly guy on the forums, then you were like more leaning towards that role. And some people played them both.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I used forums all the time back in the day, and
you know how you could know too, which was fun. The forum they had a forum mod list that you could click on. It was a list of the people. I don't remember if that was publicly available or not, but there was a list of forum mods, and if you knew who was who and who had the player moderatorship in game, like if you were tied in with the community, you could look at the list. And I think the first few names towards the top of the list, you knew that those guys were dual mods. That's just like a little piece of like deep cut RS wisdom for you right there. Just like a little piece, And
cool.
I probably would still know them if I went to go find them, but I guess I shouldn't name names. I don't know. That's a whole other thing.
I'm gonna call them out. Episode 2, we'll do some like Jerry Springer thing. I'll bring you both on. You guys can duke it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward to 2013. Old School RuneScape's released. So I'm looking at your account here. You have 1,300 total. I got your stats up. 1,300 total level, 81 combat. Nothing crazy. You're pretty kind of like, I want to say like middle of the road. But I know some people would even say you were on almost like maybe even below. No, yeah, I'd say about middle of the road. Account wise, comparing the overall populace of RuneScape.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I'd say if you can compare me stat wise, I'd say just because of the I guess you could say like limited number of hours I've now been able to devote to RS, old school RS. It's like I've gotten to that point where it's like I'm kind of middle of the road. I did not have like a week's long binge play like session like some people have, So
yeah, for sure, and it's hard to classify because depending on who you ask, they might say something different. Like level 81's pretty high, but at the same time, like
130 is max combat, right? Or
126, 126, but
126. Okay.
Yeah, so looking at some of the end game bosses, a level 81 isn't really going to be able to fight any of the big bosses, right?
I think as far as like any of the game's actual challenging content goes, like bare minimum like level that you're typically looking at to get started to even like perform moderately well, I think would be in the 90s, right? Like you want to be at least 91.
You could get away like with base 80 combats. You could like base 85, between 80 and 85. You could start doing the raids at the end of the game,
sure.
But not alone. You'd want to find a group, and maybe not a group of randoms, a group of friends who are more lenient on your stats, I suppose. And I'm talking about the end game content.
So let me just say this too real quick. I at a point in time I played so I think I told you I had skipped out when RS was going through its whole EOC phase, like
sure.
around I guess it's like circa 2013 or something like that. But like I was involved with RS3 for a little bit. I definitely delved into RS3. I gotta say, it's not my game nearly as much as the one that's near and dear to my heart, but I delved into it for a little bit. I do like some of the additions, some of the I do like some of the graphical upgrades. I do like some of the new skill additions. I think divination was one of them, and I really love Jagex's attempt at taking I think Mr. Ian Taylor's old school music and trying to revamp it and bring it into a modern age. Like it really transformed. It basically brought RuneScape to the next level. I'm not an RS3 player. I kind of dropped off with it basically entirely. I think around the time I was working on statting out like cooking or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But just like honorable mention to RS3 for the fact that like it is a cool game for what it is. It's just not the same game, right? I think here we live for old school, So
totally agree. I've tried to get into RuneScape 3 so many times, mainly because the questing looks phenomenal. Like the storytelling in their quests looks so much better than old school RuneScape, but I just can't do it. There's certain things that I just can't get into. But so going back to your account though, so 1,300 total level, 81 combat, yet you have 99 thieving and 99 fletching. So I guess the first question, why 99 thieving? That seems, for personally, that's one of the less enjoyable skills for me. But what motivated you to do that? And I guess, how did you train it and why did you train it?
I'm glad that you asked that question, man. So I had a couple of 99s. They're basically the primary motivation for thieving, and thieving was the first one that I'd gotten on my new account here, is that because what you're going to see actually, so maybe we can do this right now while we're on call if you want to. It might be an interesting little side comparison. But if you can bring up the stats for RS3, I can shoot you my RS3 username, and then maybe you could see too. But the reason I tell you that is because so back in the day when that account that exists on RS3, which I now played through the original version of the game, obviously, like I played that through original 2007 Scape. That's like a legacy account, right? Like it's old.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, sorry, that wasn't accurate. I meant to say my account as a whole, the one that I'm playing on, as you're addressing me as Crown Legacy, is an old account, right? Like it's years old. Like I can't remember. I think it's maybe more than 10 years old now. However, what I mean to say is that, how do I describe this? It's simply the fact that when you restarted OSR7, you had to restart all your stats from scratch, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyways, if you were to compare the one on RS, I guess the same account on RS3, what you'd see is that I have a couple of 99s already that I acquired through the game beforehand. And I recall the very first 3 99s I'd ever gotten back in the day were firemaking, thieving, and agility were the top 3. So when it came to like what 99 I was going to pursue now on our OSR7 or RSO7, I don't know why I reversed those. I guess it doesn't really matter, but what's it called? I think the reason why I'd pursued that was because I didn't even I guess do my research and into thinking like, okay, well, what's the most efficient or easiest 99 to go for? I was almost going based just purely off nostalgia and memory and what I knew. Like I remember thinking to myself, well, agility was fucking hard as fuck and took so long. I remember I grinded out agility for months and months and months and months. And I remember feeling like thieving was like comparatively a lot easier. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go knock out thieving. And I did it. But that also took months and it wasn't as fast as I was thinking it was going to be. None of these 99s are, man. Like 99 takes hours and hours of grind, and it's unless you have 100%. Hours to sit at the PC doing it, it takes a long time. It's
why like I would never recommend RuneScape as a game to people because they're like, oh, like as much as I love it, most people that's not fun to grind hours and hours just for like.
Yeah,
the number 99 for a stat, but a lot of people love it. That's why it's so popular, right?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, man. So I agree. Like I think I would tell people it's very hard. Like it's not exactly the most accessible, that kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not in comparison to other games that you'd be picking up, like more modern stuff and other genres and things like that. But
so how did you train thieving to 99?
Thieving to 99 was done through Pyramid Plunder.
Nice.
That's the way that I did it. And my reasoning for that was that I was going to get Pharaoh Scepters along the way, or I was going to chance my odds. I believe the actual math and the RNG for that, I believe was, I think, again, don't quote me, but I think it was like 1 in 1,000 per sarcophagus or chest loot per run was like 1 in 1,000 chance to get a scepter. And a scepter was worth 5 mil, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what my RNG is like on the path to 99, all those months of grinding, I picked out 3 scepters.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure how well that is actually with RNG wise, but still, it's money, right? Money to be had. And
it was. Think of it this way. It was certainly. It definitely would have been certainly thousands of runs, right? Like thousands of loots on the chest, and it was like 1 in 1,000. So I got it 3 times on the path from whatever level I started at. I think it was like when we're talking about like the Pyramid Plunder run from a certain level to max to 99. I believe it was like from level 70 or something like that. So so that maybe puts it into perspective a little bit. It's
sure.
You're doing thousands of runs. I got it 3 times. So my RNG was like probably like straight average.
Did you get the pet?
No. Wait, maybe. Do you know what the pet was by any chance?
It'll be a raccoon.
I think I did. I did get the raccoon. I think I did. Yeah. I think I did. I have to go. I don't recall off the top of my head, and maybe it's because maybe I didn't even realize that it was like such a big deal. But I might have picked that up. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Funny.
Go get that insured. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So before we wrap things up, you are the sound design guy. the guy to go to about sound effects. And what I wanted to do was play you a few, RuneScape, best sound effects out of any video game. Not really, being sarcastic. It's definitely got its own flavor of sound effects, but they're not great. It's gonna be kind of difficult to make sounds fit with RuneScape because it's similar with graphics. You can't make them too good because then they're gonna stick out like a sore thumb,
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly exactly the same in that sense, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to play some sound effects, and I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think it is before I tell you what it is. And
interesting. Okay, fun.
And maybe we can talk about, without going too deep into the rabbit hole, but maybe we can talk about how that sound, like how they came up with that sound. Maybe you can try to put yourself in their shoes and figure out why this sound. Okay? So I'm going to do fair warning to our listeners. These aren't the best sounds in the game. I'm actually going to go with this is a top 5 list for the worst sounds in the game.
Let me throw in a little wild card here. I will actually ask you at a point to if it's all right with you, man, to play me a specific sound from the game. And you know how I'm going to do this right now? I'm going to lump RS sound effects into the category or like the idea of like sound bites, because I think that some of them become at times quite musical in nature, and so sometimes it can kind of blur that line in a sense. And so I'm gonna throw one at you at the end after we go through your list of stuff that's my personal favorite, and it leans more into the musical. It's one of those like musical-y type sound bites, but like okay. I just want to pull it up for you as it's a favorite of mine, and it will be a nice little capper, a little closer for the podcast. Maybe if you want to throw the audio in there, because it's a personal favorite of mine.
Cool, I can try my best.
And I think you will. Yeah, if you can find it. I was even going to say you should throw your favorite in there too if you've also got a favorite.
I don't know if I have a favorite sound effect, to be honest. Maybe the sound of a whip, no? Just because the whip was such a big goal.
Oh, the whip is a great sound. Yeah, it's very iconic.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like a whip, but it was a very crisp. There's a specific quality to it, right? So,
Okay, here we go. First sound effect.
Ooh.
What do you think that is?
That's tough. That one's tough.
I know this is such a dumb question to ask you. You're not gonna get it.
No. I love doing this. It's fun. That one's a deep cut, isn't it?
Sort of. Yeah.
I think that my two inclinations. I think I'm wrong on both accounts, but what I would lean into is I would say like my guess of what that actually is it's either some sort of utility to do with fishing. If it's nothing to do with fishing, you can stop me if I'm correct or whatever. But like, so something to do with fishing. If not, then then my other inclination would be something to do with some kind of like reeling monster, like maybe a monster that's just been splashed or something like that, like an obscure creature of some sort.
I'm closer with your second hit. So that's the this isn't even a nostalgic sound.
Let me guess.
This sound was introduced in old school RuneScape. This wasn't in like 2007. Well, it's not even in RuneScape 3. No, it wouldn't be in RuneScape 3 either, I don't think.
No, sorry, you lost me with that. So wait, it's not part of 2007 Scape?
No, this sound got introduced with old school RuneScape.
With old school. Okay, then if it's one of the newer pieces of content, then I actually don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
So, do you know the corporeal beast?
Yeah, I do know the corporeal beast. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the dark core that pops up from that boss, when you kill it, you have a chance of getting a pet, and that pet is the dark core. And when you have that pet out, it makes that sound when it's like pulsing.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Very, very cool. I would have had no idea. That sounds like very fresh content for old school, right?
Yeah,
like
that would be fresh content.
Yeah, that one's a deep cut for sure.
Would you say that's
you were bossing and trying to get for that? You wouldn't.
Would you say it's a well done sound for RuneScape?
If you want to just play it through one more time, I'll give you my thoughts on the actual audio.
Okay, so here it is again. Tell me now that you know what it is, if this is like a fitting sound.
Okay, so I think I see the intention behind it. I feel like it could be fitting. The one thought that comes to my mind, and this just might be a gap in my knowledge, but I haven't played the corporeal beast a whole lot, but from what I recall or do remember, it's like quite a dark-esque kind of looking creature, and also I believe it takes place in like an area of the wilderness, right? And like it's a very like the mood and the tone is very like unsettling and like creepy and dark. Corporeal, he's like a ghost in a sense, right? So
yeah.
That sound as like the pulsation of like a pet or something like that. It feels a little, in my opinion, I'm getting a little bit more of a happy tone or vibe off of that. Like if I were to associate a mood with it, like for me, and like sound design is all mood. Don't ever mistake that. Is this like if I were to associate like a leaning on a scale one way or the other with that sound, it's like it doesn't sound like, you know, like super rainbows and flowers, like all happy positive, but I get a little bit more of like, it sounds neutral, but it also sounds like I think it's the pitch like envelope of it. It's the way that the pitch sounds. It doesn't sound particularly dark to me. So for me to comment on whether I think it's fitting or not, I feel like I can't, because I haven't really seen what the pet looks like.
I like that you said it gave off like a more neutral or friendly vibe when really it should be a more darker or sinister vibe.
Exactly. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
We're going to move on to the next one. I got 5 here.
Sure.
Here's number 2.
What the fuck? That's RuneScape?
That's RuneScape.
That almost sounds like that. That was almost like Mario-esque or something like that. It was very Mario-like.
Here we go again.
That
it does sound like Mario.
Is that God, I don't know. Is that also something? I also want to say that's something to do with some kind of skilling or fishing or something.
No, this one does come from 2005. I'll just tell you, it's the yo-yo from the Christmas event.
Oh. Yeah, man, you're pulling out some really interesting ones. That's really cool. That's badass. Yeah, let me hear it again. Let's hear it again.
And then let us know if this is a good yo-yo sound in the world of RuneScape. It's the yo-yo going up and down.
It's what I'll say. It's one of the sounds from RuneScape that leans more in the category of like obnoxious for sure. That's kind of why I keep leaning into. That's why I keep leaning into telling you like fishing sounds, because I seem to recall like the more like 3D sounds that happen in the environment as you're walking around, like other players are generating them. Like I seem to recall the more annoying ones in the game all emanating from fishing. It's something about like, I don't think it's the satisfying plunk of like the net in the water, because that was like a classic sound. Anything else to do with like, I don't know, maybe it's like a random event in the water, or like I can't. You probably know what I'm getting at. There's like some kind of like ambient, like sort of like pulsating sounds like that have become very like annoying.
No, as you mentioned, it's not a good. I don't think it's a good sound. There's so much, even with the level of audio quality you can get with RuneScape. There's definitely better sounds, but maybe because it was a holiday event, the idea was for it to be goofy. It's hard to say. It was 2004, so this is like 15 years old.
Probably. And you know what? This is just an interesting exercise in that we're doing here of just like listening to the sounds and then making a critique, because it's funny, like without you giving me that context or actually telling me that particular sound was from the use of the yo-yo, I don't think I ever would have made that connection. And that's funny. I don't like it goes to show you that for a lot of sound design, it's like maybe a lot of people wouldn't have ever made that connection, man. Like it's pretty cool how abstract it can be. But yeah. Anyways, I guess we can move forward.
Yeah, okay, we'll do the next sound. Sound number 4.
Okay, so that's some kind of that's some kind of combat, right? Happening?
Yeah, there's a little bit that gives it away there. This again.
So what it was, yeah, I could definitely tell that not only was it like a particular sound, but there was combat sounds in there too. So that sounded to me like some kind of obviously some sort of creature, some monster that you're fighting. But I feel like that. You know what? Was that the Chompy Bird?
No. So is that? Do you get like a bird monster from this?
Yeah.
I'll play it again. So what monster do you picture?
Okay, so if that's not
Chompy.
if it's not anything bird related, my next guess would be some kind of undead, like a ghoul or some sort. Or if not the ghoul, it would probably be like I actually recall a specific, like a very very specific ghost type NPC that was in like maybe level 20 wilderness or something like that. Is that what we're hearing?
No, but you're actually close. They're called nail biters. I think that's what they're called. They're like these panther monsters, but they come from Mauritania, which is filled with ghouls and ghosts.
Whereabouts are those guys?
You have to do temple trekking, and then you have a chance of getting them as an event if you've ever done that mini game.
Temple Trek. Yeah, isn't there those other ghostly characters that are associated with that? They're the ones that hang out in Morton, I guess was what the town was called. You know what I'm talking about?
And you escort them back.
Yeah, they're like green. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like
green, yeah, it's
not ghasts. I'm not talking about ghasts. They were like these green NPCs that inhabited that town. You know?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
But yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. That's from that was from I forget what the minigame's called. No, I can't remember what it's called. We'll move on to the next one though. But people know what we're talking about, and they're screaming at their whatever they're listening to it on right now. Okay, so here's the next one.
Well, actually, I was just make a quick comment on the actual sound of that one.
Yeah,
that one sound wise, I actually think that's pretty cool. Like, I think that actually does imbue a good sense of like what it like. I think that was you could tell my ear was like a little bit closer to like what we were actually listening to there.
No,
but so I think that was a little bit more like intentionally, purposefully inspired, I guess you could say, for like a sound. But like I don't know, like as far as how they made it, like I'm curious about that. I wonder if they just sounds almost like it was just somebody on a microphone just acting it out, and then they just chopped into a small soundbite. Well, they definitely had to do all that like crazy compression they have to do for RuneScape sounds, anyways. But yeah, so
cool. We'll go to the next one. A lot of people are gonna know this sound effect. This is a classic. That's it. That's the sound right there. I can play it again for you.
It's so fucking familiar, but I don't remember what it is. I think my guess would be it's definitely related to that like death animation that some NPCs have where they just do that like the two arms go up in the air and then they drop to their
interesting.
knees. Is that it? So,
no.
Like, is it a death animation for something? Is
no,
that like
it's not.
what the sound is? Okay. I don't know.
It's the Armadillo crossbow when you use the spec. That's the sound it has.
Oh. Yeah, that's super interesting. That would have been like literally my last guess.
It's supposed to sound like a bird.
If I had to answer that question to save my life or something, I never would have got it right.
It's supposed to sound like a bird. The screech of like a hawk or something.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. Actually, can you play it one more time? It was such a classic sound to me. It was like one of those like I could associate it with the memory of RuneScape. I just couldn't pick like what it was related to. But that's interesting, man. Mm-hmm. It's funny as far as the quality of that sound goes. I'd say that I actually made one for a game project I was working on a couple of months back or a year or two, about a year ago or so. That was like a phoenix that had to have like a roar and like a pitching screech to it and whatever. And it is basically the like HD. It literally is the HD intonation of that sound, like the pitch, the specific way that sound pitches. I feel like I did the HD version of it. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
like
funny.
Like the way that it goes, like if I were to intonate it, it's sort of like, what? I can't do it. My voice doesn't do it. But I think I'm actually losing my voice slightly just because we've been talking so much. But,
yeah, we're gonna wrap it up soon. Don't worry.
No worries.
Before we wrap up, though, I got one more sound effect. All right.
Well, actually, I want to throw one at you too, man, if we can find it.
Okay, we'll try. So let's do this last one, and then we'll see what your sound is.
Sure.
I'll play it again for you. There's a lot going on there. That's pretty much it. So what are your thoughts?
Can you play it just one more time for me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's gotta be some kind of like, it's some kind of bossing related sound or some kind of creature for sure. I just don't know.
I would almost say opposite end of the spectrum.
Really? You know what? It's weird, man. I have a couple of sound effects. Let me just be real about this. I have a couple of sound effects that stick out in my mind from RuneScape that I certainly remember from playing it back in the day. But there's also a ton that I feel like I might have actually never experienced them, only because
who plays with the sound on?
Yeah, exactly. Who plays with the sound on? Exactly that. It's almost like sacrilege considering what my career is like now. But like, yeah, it's like who plays RuneScape with specifically with the sound on? Like, the music was sometimes a little bit more, but like also the other thing too is whenever I have critically analyzed RuneScape sounds, there's enough sound in the game that actually some of the sounds in terms of their like, I guess, white noise quality, or maybe it's just the sound of that compression, a lot of it kind of starts to blur together a little bit. Like there are iconic sounds like to me, some of the most iconic sounds of RuneScape, one of them, like absolutely without a doubt in my brain, it will be like ingrained forever, is like the teleport.
Yep.
Like I would have known the teleport any day of the fucking week. Like just other stuff, right? But splashing, I guess, from spells.
For sure.
Like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to tell you what that sound was? I'll play it again.
I don't know what it is, man. You're gonna have to tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You weren't gonna guess that anyways. It's such a tricky one. On the Lunar spell book, there's a spell called plank make or make plank, and it basically turns logs into planks.
That's what that is.
It's supposed to sound like a saw, I think.
Maybe, yeah, I could see the buzzsaw aspect slightly, but like it's a reach. It's a reach for the quality of sound that you get in RuneScape for sure. You know.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. So I want to give a quick shout out to Mac H on YouTube because he had top 5 worst sounds in OSRS. So I pulled those sounds from that video. So shout out there. Nick, so what is the sound? Let's wrap up, but before we do, what was the sound that you wanted? What is your like favorite sound? That you
my personal favorite sound of RuneScape is one of the musical-esque ones, why I refer to it as like a soundbite. And actually, they're calling it here on YouTube a jingle. So it's one of the ones that falls into the jingle category. And I'll drop it for you here, and then you can have a listen.
Oh, you already have it. Perfect. Okay, here we go. That one there?
Yeah. What do you think? That's the classic. That's the classic, in my opinion. That was like the prayer. Like,
that's a good one.
It's a level up for prayer. That sound was like that. I'll be honest. I would actually turn sound back on for specific important level ups, and usually it was for 99 because 99 meant you got all kinds of fireworks.
Yeah.
Whenever I etched close to a prayer level, I was so hyped, dude. I turned on the fucking sound for my fucking prayer level. You know,
sick. No, that's great. That's funny.
So good. It's so angelic, and I think on top of that, it's also like. I think it's just a couple of chords, right? But I'm pretty sure it's just a resolution. I think that's what we're listening to. I think it's like a building chord progression, and then the last one is like, you know how like some songs try to do that thing where like they don't give you like the release, they don't give you the like resolution to like the chord or the key or something. This is like the opposite. It gives it to you, and it's glorious, you know?
That's perfect. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. Anything you want to say before we get out of here? Is there anything you want to plug? I don't know if you're active on Twitter and you want Twitter or Instagram or maybe Twitch. No,
I just say to the people, like, you know, I hope everyone's enjoying their you know, RuneScape life, and you know, let's keep this game alive, because you know it's something that's near and dear to all of us. And if anyone ever wants to hit me up if they're ever playing, yeah, that's my username. Feel free to shoot me a DM if you want. Just Crown Legacy, and yeah, I play very infrequently, but yeah, and I hope that the the livelihood of the Discord server stays alive too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's about it, man.
Awesome. Well, thank
Nothing
you
too
for
complex.
talking today.
This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. Like, this was so, like, I'm glad that we fucking did this, man. Like, we got, this
We'll
is
make
fantastic.
a note and we'll do a part 2 later on when I find some more. Maybe I'll find a top 5 best sound effects of RuneScape and we can go with that route next time.
Maybe, yeah, or maybe, you know what else? You can fully, like, maybe we can get on a couple of guests and maybe then together we could all just chat about our RuneScape memories.
For
you know?
sure. Well, what we also have to do, because I got a nice list here, is we gotta do another one of these where we talk about our favorite music soundtracks, because RuneScape's got a shit ton of them. And
yeah, and music is a big deal. Actually, I was even going to point out at some point during the podcast that music might even be a bigger deal in far as RuneScape goes, man,
100%,
than the sound effects particularly, right? So like I was even wanting to get into that a little bit, but it's just so much other stuff to get into. So
no,
yeah,
I agree.
We'll have to save that for another day.
So next time we'll tackle the music design, I guess. Ground Legacy, thank you so much, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, we'll do this again soon.
Thank you very much to Mr. Crown Legacy for sitting down and talking to me today. This is the 3rd edition of the OSRS Rambles series. It's a series I do periodically, just sitting down and talking to different guests in the RuneScape community. So if you would like to be a guest or you have a guest request, you can reach out to me on Discord, in-game as Dills. I'm always in the Wild CC if I'm playing. But you can also reach out to us on Twitter at TheWildernessRS, as well as our email, which is thewilderness.podcast@gmail.com. All OSRS Rambles are available free, but you can listen to them early access a few days early by becoming a Patreon supporter. You can go to www.patreon.com/thewildernesspodcast to become a supporter today. Thank you to all of our supporters. You help keep the show running and paying for the hosting fees. So I can't thank you enough. So again, thanks to Crown Legacy, and thank you to everyone. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one.